Mr. Enjoy Your District.
Welcome to the Interlude with Drew. What's up, everybody? This is Andrew McCain. This is another episode of the Interlude with Drew. I have a very special guest today, one of my brothers. I look up to this dude, even though I'm older than him by a few years. But this guy is an amazing singer, amazing producer, amazing musician, like incredible musician. He plays multiple instruments, and like the way I look at this guy is like if a musical genius was a person, it'll be my man right here, V.Keys, Vaughn Henry, my brother. Man, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being willing to do this interview, man. It means a whole lot. How's everything going with you, man?
My bro, first off, thank you for having me. It's an
Absolutely.
honor to be here, man. Man, everything is going great, man. Life is good. God is good. You know, there's not
Yes,
much
sir.
more to say than that.
Absolutely, man. That's a testimony for real. Personally that you went through a lot in 2020, but can you give
Hmm.
a brief synopsis of how 2020 was for you? Because most of what happened, I believe, was before the pandemic. So,
Absolutely. Well, uh, man, before the pandemic even hit, I got married in November of 2019. And basically at the top of 2020, I was on tour and I got really, really, really sick for about 2 months. I was really, really going through a lot of health challenges. And, you know, that time for me prepared me for this whole virus thing because I was quarantined. I was at such a bad point in my health that I was quarantined before the whole order was put into place.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just had to be at home. And that gave me a lot of time to seek the Lord and for him to give me a new direction. And I stand here before you today, healed and moving on, you
Praise
know.
God, man. I'm so thankful because I think I remember like you mentioning it at the beginning, that you were going through some health struggles, and I believe that at one point you mentioned that your wife was as well, and that can be
Absolutely.
so trying as a newlywed couple because I'm married as well, so I know how it is starting out.
Right.
You're trying to get to know each other, but to go through a health struggle at the same time that early is a real test. But I'm so thankful
It's
that
a
God
real test.
healed
Yeah.
both of you guys and brought you through it.
Yes, he brought us through it. And I mean, physically, I'm so glad that he brought us through it, but even emotionally, he brought us through it because there were a lot of emotions, a range of emotions like God, we're newlyweds, we're
Hmm.
thinking, oh, we about to be everything's about to be amazing, and then life for real hits you.
Right, right.
Um but if it wasn't for the help of the Lord, I don't know how we would have made it, but we definitely, like I said, emotionally, he's made us so much stronger. It's made us better people. And I'm grateful for what I went through because of what it produced. That's much better than not having gone through it.
Absolutely. So you mentioned it here and you mentioned it elsewhere, that struggle brought you closer to God. Can you briefly talk about how that like strengthened your relationship with God? Because a lot of times, to be honest, people give up on God when they go through something like that. But this, like, I believe helped you to see God in a whole new way.
Yeah. Well, I had to look at it like this because, of course, I was raised in the church.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have that relationship with the Lord, because your parents instill something in you, or because that's the environment that you're in.
Right.
You know, it's one thing to have that, but it's another thing to have uh, an experience with God.
Yep.
to see him pull you out of something that no one else could have pulled you out of.
Right. Right.
Um, it's different. Man, just just going through that and having to be at a place where you realize that there's nothing that you can do to fix it. I went to about 10 or 12 doctors, trying to figure out what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
And none of them helped at all.
Wow.
They actually made it worse. Some of them said that some of my health struggles were it was in my head, or you know what
Oh
I'm saying?
man.
Like, so
Yeah. Yeah.
you get to, you're going to all these people who you're thinking is going to save your life basically,
Yeah.
and they're all telling you the same thing. They couldn't figure it out, and I'm like, well, if God is my problem, then only God is my solution.
Right.
you know
Right. Right.
if God has allowed this to happen to me for a reason, then I'm better off in his will trying to figure out what to do than to be out of his will and in the same situation.
Oh,
you
that's a
know
word. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
for me being in his will just became clear, and it wasn't based off of the relationship in Christ that I had when it was being taught to me or
Right.
instilled in me. Now it's from a place of, no, I know God is real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know I know what he did for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now I also have more of an understanding, because now that I can hear his voice more clear, because I had to spend time with him. I had to spend time with God because
Yeah.
I had nothing else,
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
and so dealing having to deal with God on a daily basis, like as somebody you're really in a relationship with and really in communication with, it will change you spiritually. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And it will strengthen you. And so that's just having to spend that time with God, being at the lowest point that I could be at,
Right.
newly
Right.
married and known as what people know as V.Keys, but there's Vaughn is in there, like dying,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
physically, dying. And I had to just take a time out to not be V.Keys for a while. I'm just now married, and I have to just be Vaughn and vulnerable, at that time, having to never having dealt with any health crisis before this,
Right.
and so I was just basically brought to my knees, and I believe that God did that to draw me closer to him, because he has a bigger purpose for me, not to
Right.
just do music, but to really use my platform to reach out to other musicians, because I feel like musicians sometimes we can be starved as in the things of God. We
Oh
get
yeah.
starved spiritually
Yeah.
very easily because we're always pouring out, pouring out,
Mm-hmm.
pouring out. But we get starved too, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I feel like God is putting me in a place and using whatever platform that it is that he gives me to draw in musicians and unite them, and also spread to them like the love of God, the true love of God, not the one that they hear about on Sundays growing up or just playing at church for a check, but the one that they experience, the God that they can experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it just from the outside looking in, it just seems like you're in a totally different and I would say better space with your, your relationship with God, your understanding of God, and your walk with God. So I,
Mhm.
at the time, I was praying for you, feeling for you. No, I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I knew it must be tough just based on the updates that you gave. But like David said, it was good for me that I was afflicted that I might
Right.
learn your statutes. So I feel like you have
Yeah.
that same type of testimony where
Exactly.
It hurt
Exactly.
while I was going through it, but I'm so thankful that I
Yeah.
know you
It
better now.
was absolutely, absolutely
Yeah. So let's
for
go
sure.
back to the beginning. So how did you get started in music? I know I've heard you talk about starting as a young child. What age were you when you first got into music?
I first started playing music at the age of 2. I was 2
Oh,
years
wow.
old when I
Okay.
started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that on the piano?
Yeah. That was on the piano. I actually started on a little like Walgreens keyboard
Oh yeah.
type of vibe.
Yeah, that's how
Little
we all do it.
Casio with the batteries.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
started with that. One Christmas, my mom bought me a bunch of toys when I was 2, and she bought me a few musical toys, and then she bought like some other regular toys for a boy. And she said she returned all like the cars, the trucks, and all that stuff because I didn't play with them. I didn't use them. I only
Yeah.
touched the musical stuff. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a reflection of who I am now. Like I, I've never owned a video game
Oh
system.
wow.
Like
Oh wow.
yeah, like I've never
Yeah.
really. I've always just been drawn to music, and
Okay.
I see now why the Lord has made it that way. But like it's just been who I am. Like I'm just yeah, I'll do like even if when I did have a TV in my room, I don't even have a TV in my room anymore. When I did have a TV in my room, I would put on the TV but not watch it. I'm doing music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just kind of how it's always been since I was a kid. I don't know
Wow.
anything else.
So it was definitely meant to be for you from birth.
Oh yeah, that was God. I had nothing to do with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I kind of I talk a lot about the 8 hour a day practice guy. So you were definitely one of those, right?
Ah, yes, I was.
Man, that boy did it pay off. So
Oh, bro, thank you.
did anybody else in your family play music?
Yeah, only my father.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, okay,
one uncle by marriage, he plays and sings, but only my dad. He's plays bass and sings.
okay. So let's say around like 10, preteen to early teen years, like what was your practice routine like around that time, if you can remember?
Hmm.
Were you like
You said
transcribing or
around
just kind of like setting?
10. No, I didn't know what transcribe. So my journey is so weird.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who do know me can probably hear the different eras of my playing and my playing all at one time.
Uh-huh.
uh because it's weird. I didn't study like people know me now for being able to play, jazz and
Yeah.
church and do all of these things at once. But
Yeah.
I didn't start playing any jazz or anything, or I didn't go to school until I was turning 20, I
Oh, okay.
believe.
Yeah. Okay.
So like about a year after high school,
Okay.
then I finally went to study because I wanted to be better. But
Yeah.
all my life I just been I mean, I'm Jamaican, you already know.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
Jamaican, and I come from a island Jamaican church, but I'm American,
Right. Right.
so I get a mix of both of those cultures. So when I was younger, I was more so like whatever I could hear and try to mimic and play, that was my practice. You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
that's just what it was.
Yeah.
I would do things like when I was a kid, I know a lot of people have seen this commission tribute, but I was doing commission tributes when I was like
Yeah.
8, 9, 10
Oh
on
wow.
these
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
Yamaha YPGs that you can record on. Like I
Hmm.
was doing stuff like that.
Okay.
That's what I was actually, and I didn't even realize it, but even at that young age, I was practicing production, you know,
Wow. Wow.
in a
Yeah.
sense, just making tracks of stuff that I just liked and wanted to do because I was a child and I had all the time in the world to do whatever I wanted to do,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
I was literally doing stuff like that. That's what most of my practice time consisted of.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned the commission tribute, which, like you said, everybody's seen that by now. And for the listeners out there, I'm going to do a humble brag real quick. I got to hear it like a long time before,
You
long time
did.
before it hit the net.
You
So, like,
did,
just
bro.
throwing that out there. And I was blown away because for me, I was a little late on commission. I don't know. Well, my parents, they're not musicians or anything. So it's funny. A lot of the stuff that we listen to as a family is because I discovered it. So I didn't really my first time hearing commission, I bought a Gospel Greats album and the song Please You More was on there. I was already a Fred Hammond fan, but I was like, yo, Fred is singing with these other dudes. What is this? And then
Dude.
I remember after like a few years after that, I bought the Commission Reunion album, and
Oh
I was
yeah.
officially a fan after that. It was a wrap.
Mm,
But talk about how they influenced you starting out, like just how creative they were and different they were.
man, they they were so pivotal in their time. They they brought a sound to gospel that everybody couldn't even really actually understand,
Right,
bro.
right, right,
And people like they loved it, but they really didn't know like these guys were not just influencing gospel.
right, right.
They influenced like if you ask boys to men who their number one influence is, they're
Hmm.
gonna say commission with
Right.
undoubtedly. Like, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like they had that kind of impact doing gospel music.
Exactly.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
that's huge.
And even though they should have, you know, if you got people like boys to men saying that they listen to commission, it's pretty safe to say that the talent level of commission was far surpassed a boys to men
Oh yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And they did not get to me what I felt like they deserved. You know what
No,
I'm
definitely
saying?
not. Definitely
And
not.
even in this, like I could still see they influenced me so much because I could just see God in them. Like God allowed it to be that they influenced people like boys to men. You know what
Right,
I'm
right.
saying? And they may not have gotten all the praise and accolades that they deserve because they're
Hmm.
the influence, but it always has to be said that these dudes influenced us. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
And when
Yep.
they have to say that, I'm like, God gave them a sound like that.
Literally.
God gave them a sound to where they are chasing that sound that they can't achieve because the anointing is definitely the difference
It is.
in
It is.
that
Yep.
too. You know what I'm saying? Like they're chasing that sound, you know, and they weren't able to achieve it, but they can recognize like this is where it comes from.
Yeah.
Like these guys. So if they have that type of impact, bro, like they're just they're known, but still unsung heroes,
Literally.
especially
Yep.
at the mark from 1984 to 1994. Basically, every year that Fred Hammond was in it, every single album they did was perfect. I
Yeah.
don't understand.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Every
every
one of them.
album perfect. That's
Yeah.
weird. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Yeah. That
saying?
don't
Like
happen. That
that
doesn't
doesn't
happen.
happen. Like, you
Yeah.
know, uh anointed, bro.
Yeah. Literally.
Anointed.
Yeah. I was
Anointed.
hearing recently that even Brian McKnight, he gave tickets to Mitchell Jones to come to a concert back in the day. And then he
Oh
had him
yeah.
come up and sing "Tis So Sweet" to him. He's like, "There's no Brian McKnight without Mitchell Jones. Like that's my number one influence, mission in general." So
Wow, and
they
that makes so much sense.
it does, it really does. When I heard it, I was like, "Oh wow, okay."
But I
That
mean, Mitchell, when he was doing that, he was just being himself, bro.
literally,
He was
yep,
just raw like that from
yeah,
back then. You know what I'm
yep.
saying?
I mean, even now, I went to their reunion show 2019, like November,
Oh
and he
yeah,
sounds
he's
exactly
crazier
the same.
now.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
he sounds the
crazy.
same, and he's even crazier now because now he done like been like, okay, I see what you young folks is doing. I could do that too,
Right,
and he
right,
does
right,
it
right, right.
with still doing himself. So that's what I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, it's really crazy. They're
that's
legends, man.
different,
They're
you
legends.
know.
Yeah. But so okay, so you said that prior to going to jazz
Absolutely.
school, you were pretty much learning on your own. and just doing what you can,
Mm-hmm.
learning by ear for the most part. So I can only imagine going to jazz school. Were there a lot of things that like your teachers and stuff had to correct as far as like fingerings and just the way how you applied things? Was it a learning curve or did it just kind of flow?
Absolutely.
Oh man.
Absolutely. I had to totally reset, and I had to rethink the whole way that I played music, which was
Wow.
so hard.
Yeah, I
It
can
was so
imagine.
hard because I had been comfortable doing what I was doing. I mean, I could play, and I had been playing for so long that it felt like I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to redo everything to learn how to play properly.
Right.
As far as like you said, like fingering and things like that. I'm like, I want to be able, because there was always more in my head that I could get out, that I
Hmm.
that I couldn't get out.
Oh,
I
okay.
couldn't figure
Okay.
out how to get it out, but I knew the sound. And
Right.
what
Right.
school did for me was allow me to get control. Music was already in me,
Hmm.
but so what school did was get the the physical part in control,
Yeah.
like total control. So getting that together uh allowed me to play whatever it was that I heard in my head.
Yeah.
Um, but it was definitely like that's when the 8 hours a day actually started. Like I
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
doing that
Okay.
when I
Okay.
was a kid, not 8 hours.
Yeah, not eight.
I
Okay, that
wasn't
makes
that
sense.
disciplined, but
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. Probably would run out of
but
stuff to practice back then too.
yeah, I wouldn't know what to do, but I took on playing jazz and classical at the same time
Oh wow.
in school. So I
Yeah.
studied those, being fresh and new to both. I
Wow.
couldn't read music when I went and when I got to college. I didn't know anything really. I had to spend time practicing reading. Then I had to spend time practicing, my scales from scratch, really, really, really slow, because I had been playing them wrong all these years,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Wow.
So it
So,
was a total reset. But since I did it, like since I made the decision to do it, I haven't had to reset again.
oh,
So
okay,
that's
okay.
good.
That's good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I
I,
switch genres, I don't have to reset my
reset. Yeah,
mind.
because a lot of people do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's crazy because I've heard it said from some people that you can only really truly master one genre of music as far as playing, but for you, I don't remember if I remembered you saying classical, but I know you got gospel for sure. You pretty much
Hmm.
mastered you mastered jazz, and then I know you know how to do reggae as well, and then now
Absolutely.
and then classicals. There goes four right there. So that's
Yeah.
that's incredible, man. Like to be able to do all of that without having to like readjust your mindset. That's one of a kind, because not I can't think of anybody else that could do four, and it's probably more, right? Like more than just four, right? Because I'm sure
Uh
you've played some pop gigs and stuff like that as
oh
well,
yeah, I've
and R and
definitely
B.
played that, played that stuff. I played some Brazilian music, played with some Brazilian artists. I played a lot of African music too.
Wow.
Um I played a lot of stuff now that I
Yeah.
think about it, probably more than I could think about. But
Wow.
um, I see it all as music, and
Right.
God has given me the ability to see it that way because He's the creator, He's the author of music,
Right.
and He allowed me to. He's given me the ability to be able to still have my sound in the midst of whatever type of scenario I'm going into. So I can basically almost, I know certain things to do and not do depending on what I'm playing, but I can
Hmm.
almost, it'll always like it'll always come from the same place. A lot of the melodies are universal to me,
Hmm.
the melodies and movements that I do, they're for me, they're universal across genre lines.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great perspective to have. Like, because
Hmm.
like I said, a lot of times for most of us, we have to kind of like readjust our way of thinking in order to play a different type of music, either that or some people will just be like, well, you know, I play
Yeah.
gospel, so these moves gonna work in the other genres, and then we end up doing the accent chords and stuff from gospel,
Yeah.
and it just don't work. So to be
You
able
know,
to do that is amazing.
yeah, I think I really think it's a lot of it is really, really, really universal. Like most of Western music has the same. There's only 12 notes.
Yeah, literally,
There's
yeah.
only 12 notes. The things that make things different is the rhythm.
Hmm.
That's it. That's the only
Yeah,
difference.
that's
It's
true.
the same 12 notes. So approaching genres is about rhythmically how you're playing it, like your touch, your texture, and rhythmically what's going on. Like to have those rhythms under your belt, that's the difference between genres. Really, not that much harmonically. Like there are a few, differences, but like I said, it's 12 notes at the end of the day. We don't
Yeah,
get
every
no
time.
more, no less than 12 notes. So
Yeah,
then the thing that must be making music different is the rhythm, you
yeah,
know.
that's true.
So
Very true.
that's kind of how I've processed even looking, at music. I literally, place it on a grid in my mind and just be like, okay, harmonically, like figure out, like you've practiced, you know what to do. Just figure out what's going on rhythmically and you'll figure out, what's going
Wow.
on harmonically.
Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That definitely makes a lot of sense. So we're talking a lot from piano and keys perspective, but you are also an incredible bass player,
Oh man,
and you play
thank you, bro.
guitar. I'm sure you
Yes.
play drums too, right? I know you do key drums, but you play actual drums too, right?
I do. I haven't in a while, but I do. And
Okay.
it's still in me, but
Yeah.
I just,
Right. Right. Right.
uh
But I
yeah,
think you would probably say your second instrument is the bass, right?
absolutely.
So
That's my
when did
second
you get
instrument.
into bass, playing the bass?
Ooh. Well, okay. The bass is not my second instrument. It's actually the second to last instrument I learned. It's
Oh,
so
okay, okay, okay.
bass is my third instrument. My second instrument is drums, but it's my it's the instrument that I am almost as comfortable as I am on the keyboard.
Wow. That's
So
saying a lot. That's really saying a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's still some, and you know what's actually been happening during this quarantine? I've been getting some time like to, pick up the bass a little more and kind of
Uh-huh.
like do what I did with my keyboard playing, which is now I'm starting to be like, okay, I've been playing the bass all these years, but what's proper? How's my
Okay.
position? How's my this? So now
Yeah.
I'm working on that stuff, and it's actually been helping me a lot, in my bass playing. So I
Yeah.
believe, I believe in maybe about another year, I'll be totally as comfortable as I am,
Wow.
as I
That's
am
really
with the
crazy.
keys. But that's a process, bro. It's a
Yeah.
process, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's my I started playing bass when I was like 10, 10, 11, around 11.
Okay.
I think I was 11. Um yeah, it was a hurricane, it was Hurricane Wilma that
Oh.
happened. Happened in down here in South Florida, and we had no power for 2 weeks. My dad's
Whew.
bass was here,
Man.
and as a kid, I was just like, well, I ain't got no power to do nothing. So
Right.
then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
picked up and just to kind of learn the bass that way, which is
Wow.
why now I'm like, okay, I really want to go back and get my technique together because
Hmm.
I just taught myself as a kid
Yeah.
and did enough to play the bass, but
Yeah.
yeah, always
Wow.
trying to go higher.
That's incredible. So you for those who don't know, Vaughn is from South Florida, like around Miami, right? And
Absolutely.
we know South Florida had to have a particular sound that's like just constant and consistent throughout the years. Like specifically like the it's called the Upper Room Church, right? Or it used to be called
Mhm.
Cooper City or
Cooper
Cooper
Temple.
Temple. Yeah, Cooper Temple. And you used
Hmm.
to play there. And like
Hmm.
before you were there, they had a sound. While you were there, they had a sound. They still have a sound. Talk about
Hmm.
like what that South Florida sound is like.
Um, it's I would call it the power of the loop.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what it is. That's what the South Florida sound is. It's because like I said, there's so many different cultures here. So it's based off of groove. It's based
Mhm.
off of an entire band vibe. It's not like most other a lot of other situations where it's just like, okay, there's somebody on main keys. They're probably going to be r- letting loose the whole song. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? The
Mhm.
bass player just kind of hold it down.
Yeah.
Then the drummer just kind of hold it down. But the
Yeah.
keys is just
They get
like
to do what they
leading
want.
everything. They do
Yeah.
whatever. It's not that type of that type of gospel situation down here. It's literally like, what? How are we gonna make a song, and how are we going to make a band play together? That's the vibe of what it is. The South Florida sound. Just
Yeah.
making everything have a part and everything have a purpose, and it comes across clear.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that description really correlates with what I hear from South Florida. Like the way how you describe that really makes sense based on like how
Yeah.
you guys sound. So, from South Florida, I know you got from everywhere else, but who are your main influences musically?
Mm, just all of them.
Yeah, well, since we were talking about South Florida, if you could start there and then just talk about everybody else.
South Florida, Dwayne Bennett is my number one influence. That's the guy I grew up under.
Hmm.
Uh, he plays everything on a extremely high level.
Okay.
Like, that's where I had the zeal and passion to want to learn multiple instruments from,
Okay.
because he played every single last one of them and is great on all of them right now to this very day.
Hmm.
Um, I have to say Mark Cooper for sure. On the
Okay.
people know him as a pastor,
Pastor,
but
yeah.
he can really, really play the organ.
Oh wow.
He's definitely like the godfather organist down here. One
Okay.
of them at least. Um, my boy Corey Irvin,
Hmm.
from down here. He's a guy that can also cross genres. Very, very polished, amazing player. He's one of my influences from here. There are a lot from here. There's so many I can't even think of.
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
I know Derek people don't know that Dario Edgecombe
Oh
is
man.
from South Florida.
I ain't gonna lie. I was waiting for you to mention his name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Stefano put me on to him. He's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
he's somebody that I kind of found out about, later, because
Okay.
I was young when he had already moved, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay, okay.
Uh so I didn't even know about him until like a little bit later on in life, but by later on I mean like to like 2 years ago, which is
Oh,
terrible.
oh
Like
wow.
it's
Oh, so you
terrible.
later
I'm
than
like,
me.
yeah, I was just like, why didn't I know this? And he's from
Yeah.
here, you know what I'm
And you
saying?
probably
But
heard him play and didn't realize it was him.
yeah, probably that too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that
think
was
there's
me.
that too. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of that. So, but even just hearing him in like when I first discovered who he was, I'm like, oh, he's speaking my language. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like he's for real. Let me see who else. Um, I'll go to the jazz side of things because I have my jazz influences are really, really big. McCoy Tyner
Oh man.
is
Yeah,
my
yeah.
number one
Number
guy.
one. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, he's the best to ever do it. You ever ask me?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I think I probably heard about him from one of your statuses or something. I was super late
yeah,
on him.
yeah, crazy. Herbie Hancock is
Hmm.
one of mine. Uh, Keith Jarrett.
Oh man, one of my favorites.
Yeah. Uh it's a lot. Kenny Kirkland,
Hmm.
um, man, uh, Oscar Peterson for sure.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
it's a goat.
Roland Hanna, amazing. Yeah. Oh my goodness, man, there's so much. There's so,
Yeah.
so much. I also listen to a lot of horn players too.
Oh, okay.
John Coltrane is
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
favorite of all time.
He's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I like Dexter Gordon. You know, people like that.
Hmm.
Uh, I love Miles Davis. I
Yeah.
love Cannonball Adderley. Um, it's just there's a lot, bro. But
Hmm.
they all have like a influence on me because when I was studying jazz in school, I engulfed myself in the music so much because I was so foreign to it.
Oh, right.
Like
Yeah,
I
coming from
could
that background.
like
Yeah.
you can't just come from church thinking you just gonna go in and just play jazz like that.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
there's a
Exactly.
it's just the same way that if somebody gets on a classical player gets on in a black church and they start playing, you will know that they don't know anything about a black church.
Exactly.
It's the
Yep.
same way in jazz. You will know that somebody has no idea how to swing.
Yeah.
Like they think they learned giant steps and then you
And then
good.
you
No, no,
good.
no,
Yep.
no, 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 no. It's a lot. It's a lot that
It's a
goes into it. It's
language. It's a
you have
language
to
for
the
sure.
same way that you have to learn church over the years and understand how to
Hmm.
move. It's the same thing in jazz. You got to learn how to move, the rhythms, like how to feel the rhythms differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So in 2016, this was my introduction to V.Keys. So
Hmm.
you released the album. I think it was around April or so. Clarity 2016, and
Yes.
that album was and is incredible. To this day, I still listen to it and hear something that after all these times listening that I didn't even notice. I'm like, wait, what? What was he thinking? And then the crazy thing about it is, okay, you wrote all the songs, or yeah, you wrote all the
Yeah,
songs, right? Yeah, wrote all the
definitely
songs.
wrote all of them.
Yeah, sang like crazy on all the songs, played on all the songs, not just keys though, keys, bass, uh, key drums, and guitar,
Guitar.
everything
Yeah.
synths. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, you also mixed and mastered it, which is so
Oh,
crazy to me. So
yeah.
talk about how long did it take to put that body of work together? And like, I even heard you say that you haven't even listened to it in so long, which is
Oh man,
wild to
I
me as
haven't
well.
listened to that album in such a long time, but it's funny that you should ask how long it took to put together because it was put together over like a long period of time. Like a lot of these songs are old and
Hmm.
it's funny just because it's new to people,
Right.
but they were like really old songs from like 2012,
Oh yeah, yeah.
2011.
Yep.
Some like Someone Like Me is a song that I did actually in 2009,
Oh wow.
like when I was 16, and
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
decided to redo it to fit this
Yeah.
album. But a
Yep.
lot of
And
these
that's a great
songs were
song.
old. So like Come Alive is old. Like
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's
Wow.
really old.
Yeah.
It's I think that one's like 2010,
Oh
but
wow.
I just decided to kind of re-sing it because my voice had changed and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So I
Yeah,
was
I'm
like,
sure.
yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
The baby voice is not gonna work no more. So I had to re-sing it and stuff. But yeah, it happened over a period of time. I was just working on had different ideas that I was putting together, not necessarily working on an album. And
Okay.
then as it got closer, as I started to get closer towards like finishing an album, then I started to like write some new songs. So like at the time The Remedy was new.
Okay.
Uh Oh Lord You Are is like really old, like 2010.
Hmm.
Walk Upright was new.
Oh, okay.
Uh I'm
Yeah.
Learning is actually pretty old too.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my wife's favorite. She loves that
Oh
one.
yeah. Man.
Yeah.
And it's like you're naming these songs. I'm just thinking about how uniquely great every one of those songs is. And then
Oh
if you
wow.
never listened to it, please go buy the album Clarity 2016 by V.Keys. But the thing about it is what stood out to me at first and still is that they flowed directly to the next song. Like even if the songs didn't directly
Mm,
correlate, you put a musical transition in there that opened up the next track, and it's just like one story that you're engulfed in while you're listening to. I was like, this is genius work. Like
wow.
it's so crazy. But
Thank you, bro.
yeah, absolutely, bro. But that wasn't your first album though, right? Didn't you already release something before that? Or
Okay.
yeah, I'm just checking. I can't see it now, but I know at one point I saw it. I know at one point I saw it.
Ooh, yeah, that album's discontinued. I had when I was 16. No, when I was 15. I actually finished this album when I was 15.
Oh wow.
Um, Oh Lord You Are, like I said, was on that album.
Mm-hmm.
Someone Like Me was also on that album. I I was in a space where I was experimenting for the first time vocals, like recording vocals. And I didn't have, like, I do everything here at my house, like Clarity
Yeah,
2016. I did it in this chair that I'm sitting in right here.
yeah.
Like I did everything right here.
That's so crazy.
So yeah, like for me, I didn't even have that yet when I worked on this other album. I didn't have like a MacBook Pro and I wasn't
Mm.
using Logic and stuff. I was
Oh
really
wow.
young. I was still in high school. I
Yeah.
wasn't really thinking, about getting a mic and stuff. And so I was just now starting to get into that stuff. And I was recording at a studio, but my time was very limited because I was
Right.
a high school student,
Right.
you know what I'm
We did
saying?
that. We
So
had that same experience, and I regret that album too. But go ahead.
yeah, so I didn't have time to really do that album how I even really wanted to do it. So after a while, I just kind of left it like, and I just I reconcentrated on like playing. But I've been V.Keys for like years before
Oh,
everybody
okay.
knew like
Okay.
yeah, my friend gave me that name in like 2006.
Mm.
So like
Wow.
yeah, I've been like experimenting on and off like since I was a kid, knowing that this is what I wanted to do. And so, but that album, you can't find it anywhere.
You
I
can't. You
actually can't
can't.
find it.
Oh,
I
really?
actually literally can't find it. And I'm so happy about it.
Oh
Like,
wow. Yeah, because I saw it at one point when I was looking for more music from you. I might have listened to some of it, and it was fine to me. It didn't sound like Clarity 2016, but it was
exactly.
fine. But me knowing how that works, like I know people
Yeah,
grow and mature and stuff, so I
exactly.
wasn't listening like I was like this is dope. I didn't know he did something else. Next thing you know, I couldn't find it no more. So
Good, good. I'm glad.
yeah,
I'm glad, bro. I
but
can't, I literally can't find it. No one can find it, and I'm keeping it that way. Like,
yeah,
I'm cool with it.
yeah. But
But
so
more
you
music
you
coming soon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's talk about that. So you release about three different singles from an album that's coming out. It's called Circa 2080. Can you talk
Yep.
about that?
Okay. So that record is definitely inspired by a lot of this record is inspired by what it is that I went through in my walk with God and how I see things now. And what it is, sonically, you can hear it. It's definitely a 80s driven album.
Yeah,
I'm literally taking uh my sound that the Lord has given me and putting it with the 80s sonics,
yeah, yeah,
basically.
yeah. It's crazy.
And
It's
so
crazy.
it's like it's not Clarity 2016
Yeah, no.
V.Keys. It's a more mature V.Keys, you know. And it's these songs are more divinely inspired. I could say like God has given me a gift and I thank him every day for it. But a lot of things that I wrote back then, I wrote because I knew how to write. A
Oh,
lot of these songs I wrote when I didn't want to write. Like the
wow.
Lord, I wrote on my hospital bed with tears in my eyes.
Mm.
It was like that type of thing. Like God was like, I'm give your time to everyone else but me and what I
Wow.
got for you.
Wow.
And God literally took that time of sitting me down to you know, come up with the concepts and put them into, just sit and work and asking the Lord to lead me. And so these songs, they've just been, coming out in me just because the Lord has just been giving them to me. And I'm ready to give that to people.
Oh
I
yeah.
know that it's beyond the music. It's the anointing that I want somebody to feel. It's
For sure.
yokes being broken this
For sure.
time. And like, yeah, it's good music there. I'm not saying it's not good music, but it's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's more meaning. And there's the difference between the Clarity 2016 VKeys and the Circa 2080 VKeys. It's very different. One had a relationship that he was kind of, handed because I was a church baby.
Wow.
And another one has a relationship that he seeks after.
Wow.
You know, there's a difference between those two V.Keys,
Wow.
and both of them love God, but one of them experienced God, you know.
Wow. Wow.
So this album is basically, and I still didn't tell you what the meaning of Circa
Yeah.
2080
Yeah. Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I forgot to tell you that.
But this album is basically Circa 2080 is, like I said, it's the millennial sound mixed with the 80s sonics, and what it's a representation of is how great our God is. He's a God that exists outside of time. He created time, so he
Mhm.
doesn't need time.
Wow.
And so this record is about the anointing penetrating time. Has nothing to do with when, but has everything to do with who,
Right.
and the who is Christ. And
Yeah.
so that's what the meaning behind the Circa 2080 is. It's like this is happening in 2080, and you will
Yeah.
hear where the 80s part is and where the 2000s part is.
Man. That's
So yeah,
genius.
God gave me that, man. That's God literally gave me that. I'm not really I'm not really all that creative when it comes to like concepts and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
I
I was
don't
gonna
feel like
say. I was
I don't
gonna
feel
say.
like I don't feel like I'm that creative. I really feel like that idea was like that was God that inspired me.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and he gave me the name, and I really didn't know like what it meant. And it was like over time, like I remember telling my wife, like, this is what I want to name the album.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I think you should. And I was like, okay, I'll go with that. And I didn't know why she went with it, because I'm like, I don't really get it. I know why I just think it sounds cool because of what's the music that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I start to get, the more spiritual I get, the more I seek God, is the more I start to get a vision. Like, he was like, that's not just a thought that just came into your head just because you thought of it. He's like, I put that thought in your head. That was my Holy Spirit
Mm-hmm.
setting you up to do something that you didn't even know you were about to do. So
Wow. Yeah.
this is the main reason I'm really excited to release this music, because it's more about God's presence being felt.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And for those of you watching, if you haven't already, you got to get the three singles that have already come out. So we got Pressing, we got
Yes.
Standing in You, and he
Yes.
just recently released Watch. And every
Yes.
one of those are different, with the same type of vibe in a way, the 80s vibe, like you said, with the 2000s kind of feel, but they're absolutely incredible. And you have to go get them and just experience it for yourself, because all that he's saying about receiving the sound from God, like it's clear when you listen to the music. So that I can't wait to
Thank
hear
you,
the full
man.
project, man. That's gonna be
Thank you,
great.
bro.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate that, man.
Absolutely. So taking it back a little bit, later in 2016, you were a part of the Miami Mass Choirs album. And, I think that was a slept on album as well. But my favorite song from the album is the song We Lift You Up. One that you wrote, man, that song, I listen to that so much. It's so dope. And it's
Oh,
like,
thank you, bro.
no matter where you are, like when you're producing, like you have your own particular and unique sound. And in a time and day and age when a lot of people unfortunately are sounding the same, the world has gotten smaller because of social media. So it's not like a regional sound like it used to be. You can get a sound from the West Coast if you live over here where I live in Connecticut,
Yeah.
just because of social media. Describe what it's like to have your own sound, and how do you like kind of get your own sound? What would be your advice to a young musician that would like to know that?
Okay. Wow. That's a good, because you don't know how good of a question that is, because a lot of people don't really have conversations on sound for
Mm-hmm.
real. Like your sound, what's your whole sound? And for me, I'll tell you what I did as far as when I was younger, I prayed to the Lord, and I believe that God will grant you the desires of your hearts. I
Yeah.
believe the word when it says that. I literally prayed to God and said, Lord, no matter what I do, please don't let me sound like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Please let me have my own sound.
Mm-hmm.
I literally prayed that as like a 10-year-old boy,
Oh wow. Wow.
and he gave it to me. He connect the dots in my head. Um, what I would say to young musicians is, when it comes to developing a sound, you got to spend time with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to spend time. You have to create your sound and spend time in practice, like perfecting your sound. You know, I think a lot of people they want the microwave, like, show me this, show me that. Like, can you show me how to do this? No, work it out, because that's how you
Mm-hmm.
build your sound, when you
Yeah.
work it out. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, go to battle with your piano, go to battle with your bass, go to
Mm-hmm.
battle with your instrument, whatever it may be. Like, get on the drums and play this one idea that you have in your head slow, instead of looking up how to do somebody else's chop. You
Mm-hmm.
take the same time to do that, but you have a cool chop idea in your head that
Yeah.
wasn't influenced by nobody, but because you see somebody else got more views, you going to
Mm-hmm.
go learn that chop.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, 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 no. Get off of social media. Don't post your practice. First off, a lot of people post in practice and it's not practice. They just
Yeah.
playing, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, practice is a whole serious thing. Like, if I'm practicing, like, if matter of fact, if you don't see me on social media, I'm practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm practicing. Like, I'm not on social media. That's a big part of building your sound. Getting that time alone, away from people. That's the only way you're gonna build your sound. And I don't mean people in the sense of not being antisocial, but I mean musically. Like, instead of feeding yourself with too much of what's popular, feed yourself with a bunch of your different influences that you like. Ingest
Yeah.
them all and learn them all, so that when you play, they're all a part of you and they create your sound. And they can only be your influences if you like them. So whatever you like is going to help create your sound. So listen to something that is what you want to be, or what you think you are, just on a better level than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever sound that you gravitate towards, find the groups or the people or musicians you look up to that have that sound that you kind of already naturally have, but they're doing it on a better level. Do
Right.
that, study them. That helps to keep your sound within the confines of what it's supposed to be. Not confines, but you start to develop the maturity of your sound, because you're listening to somebody with something that you like and desire. and it's like something that you would do if you had the ability to do it at that time, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how also I like see sound building. That's what I did. Like I love McCoy Tyner, you know, like he is just so amazing. Like I wish I could do half of what he did, but I studied him enough to know, like, kind of, I know how he moves enough, you know,
Yeah.
uh, to where I can at least use it to benefit to create my own sound, you know.
Hmm.
That's how I feel like, you know, that's one of the beginning processes to, you know, getting your own sound and
Yeah.
keeping it and making it come across too. Well, no
Hmm.
matter what situation you're in, that's another thing that's
Oh
hard
yeah.
to do.
Oh
Being
yeah.
musical.
Yeah, yeah, that's priceless advice right there. Like, because honestly, I feel like a lot of people, young and old, do struggle to find their own sound, especially when you're on social media all day and you hear all these different people that you look up to. You just try to kind of become a carbon copy, but it's always best to be able to, find your own sound and take the time to develop it. So
Absolutely.
that's really great advice.
For
So
sure.
you've had some really big and great opportunities, such as like the being on the Harry Connick show and
Mhm.
being able to tour and play with Snarky Puppy and Ghost Note. What were those experiences like for you?
Man, it was it was definitely eye opening, and it was in that I gained some confidence when I realized that God had anointed my sound to literally cross genres and
Yeah.
all subgenres. Like I still play the same way
Hmm.
in all of them, and it was really kind of like amazing to be, you know, on stage with people that you look up to, like, and next thing you know, you're considered, you know, like one of their peers.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's really it's really cool to, you know, be able to do that, and I'm blessed and fortunate, you know, to have done those things. Even the Harry Connick Jr. show, I knew that it was God's favor on me, because I'm like, I don't understand how that was my first gig as a solo artist. Like
Mm.
first gig ever
Started off with a bang.
is on. I'm like, that's that's a little crazy, you know.
Yeah.
That's definitely, I'm like, that's not really anything that I did. It's definitely God set me up to be in that position. And it helped to open other doors, you
Hmm.
know, and I'm grateful for those doors that he opened. Um, and it really just makes me want to give glory back to God. Like he's allowing me, you know, to live my dream and experience, you know, different uh playing on different stages, you know, with different people, different calibers of musicians. uh it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Like it's really a blessing to be able to do this, to play music. Doesn't matter what stage it's on, really. But I count them all joy. You know, every time I get an opportunity to just play, it's amazing. So, um, those experiences were great. You know.
Absolutely. And I'm extremely happy for you seeing, God open these doors for you and you just gracefully walk through them and excel at everything that, is in front of you. And I appreciate the fact that you, through it all, from the time I met you, have always remained humble, always remain approachable, even to people that you don't know, like have a conversation with them in the DMs and stuff.
Absolutely.
And even one time I was stranded in Miami, needed a ride to the airport, and I hit up V.Keys, and with no question he was right there, gave me a ride. I'm always remember that, because you can't,
Oh man,
some friends you
dude.
can't call in a situation like that. So
Yeah, I forgot about that, man. That's crazy.
yeah, man. Yeah, that's the type of guy that
Wow.
that he is, man. I
Wow.
really appreciate that. And like I said earlier, I'm really, admiring and thankful to God for the space that you're in now, because he's giving you influence, and you're using that influence and popularity to point people back to God, especially in this season. So in closing, what would be your advice to musicians, young and old, that are struggling in their relationship with God? Like how you talked about how many musicians grew up in church, but they never grew up in God. So like what would be your advice to helping musicians to truly tap into God and to get a real relationship with him?
Well, I would say that motivation behind a relationship with God, whether you're a musician or not, whoever you may be,
Yeah,
the
anybody. Yep.
motivation has to be love. You
Mm,
know, there has to be uh you have to choose what it is that you love more. Do you love the blessing more, or do you love the blessor? Do
hmm.
you love the gift, or do you love the gift giver? Because without the gift giver, there is no gift.
Right.
So you have to put God in his proper place and think, okay, well, I love music, I love this, I love that, but who made that? Who gave you the gift? Who gave you the ability to do what it is that you do? Who gave you the strength? Because I know what it's like to not have any strength to
Hmm.
play. When I was sick, I couldn't play anymore. You
Hmm.
know, or it wasn't just that, yeah, it was terrible that I couldn't work. Like I couldn't get money, but I also couldn't play. I was literally out of strength. So who gives you the strength? Who keeps you in health? Who keeps you from getting in an accident that will require your limbs to no longer be active? Like,
Hmm.
who keeps us from that stuff? Think about that, and think about how it compares to your gift. Because if you don't have the well being to operate in your gift from the one who gives the gift and the one who keeps you well, this is for those who musicians who have grown up in the church and know better.
Yeah.
This is for them. Like, if you don't put God in his proper place, then you will you will lose sight of what's most important, and there may come a time where you won't be able to function in that gift. And that's how you always have to think. Like, think about who gave it to you
Right.
and how much he loved you and trusted you with a gift to give it to you, and the fact that he could take it away.
Yeah.
you know
At any moment.
and not
Yeah.
take it away in the sense that you don't know how to play, but take the ability to do it.
Mm.
So we have to always be grateful and give. If he's that great at giving us this gift, then we owe him our time.
Absolutely.
We owe him. Think of the cross. That's what I say to anybody who's struggling with their relationship in Christ. Like, we all gonna struggle. It's not always gonna be easy, but think of the cross and think about what really God did for us on the cross, and how he saved us, and how he literally not only saved us and took our place, took our sins away, but he also seated us in heavenly places. Think about how he made us joint heirs and heirs with Christ. Like, he didn't just save us on the cross, he also lifted us up. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
if we think about what God has done for us and how much he loves us, uh, that love should drive the pursuit of a relationship with him.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and if you really love God, you will run and cling to him.
Oh yeah.
You will do it. I don't have to convince you. Nobody has to, because there's a personal thing, you know. But just think on his goodness and think of his mercies and read his word, and that will already get you right in the place that you need to be, because he'll see that you're willing. And he
Yep.
says, if we draw nigh to him,
He'll draw
then
near
he'll
to us.
draw nigh to us. Like, God is not interested in wasting his time. He said, you draw not near to me, I know you for real drawing near to me, I got you. I'm gonna come close to you. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sound word. I pray everyone watching this truly takes heed, because the foundation does have to be love. And if you really love God, then you'll consider all that he did for you. And like Paul said, like giving your life back and making a sacrifice is just your reasonable service. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
only reasonable to worship God, to devote
Absolutely.
yourself to God. It's not asking too much. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
This is
that's
for
a good
those
thing.
who know better.
Yep, it is. It is. It is. Man, bro, I thank you so much for this interview. This blessed me, encouraged me. It gave me some new knowledge and everything like that. Like I said, you're younger than me, but I be, man, I be looking up to you, bro. So
Oh,
that
my brother,
this is
man.
truly a
Thank you,
blessing,
bro.
man. So, like I always say, only what you do for Christ will last. Take it one day at a time and keep it pushing. This has been another episode of the Interlude with Drew. I'll catch you on the next one.
It's the interview with Drew. It's the interview with
Welcome to the Interlude with Drew.